So I remember like, oh man, this starting to get draining. Like we keep coming out, we ain't making no money. But then it's like, but now it's like this year is totally different. It's like, oh, we got this event, we got this event, we got this event. So like, it's the sacrifice. It's, a lot of people see where I am now, but people don't see that I've been doing this since 2010.
You about to turn into one of the hottest episodes of the Climb Back series.
The Climb Back series is here.
We're gonna tell you how to bounce back, turning around.
The Climb Back series.
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 Climb Back series. The Climb Back series.
We got the Climb Back series here.
Thank you, the Climb Back series.
This is the Climb Back series. Today, the Climb Back series is back downtown in Baltimore at the Harbor, and I'm blessed to sit down with digital creator Jermaine Gibbs himself. The father, the husband, the philanthropist is gonna actually give us an opportunity to look into his world and tell us everything that he has going on. This is the Climb Back series. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are back with the Climb Back series, and we have a special guest today. I'm happy to introduce you guys to Jermaine Gibbs, the man, the myth, the legend, curator, father, husband, and I'm just excited to hear everything that you got. So thank you very much for the hospitality.
Oh, thank you for the opportunity to share my story.
Appreciate you. So Jermaine, talk to me about, first off, just your overall passion, like how you got into what you do. If you don't know, like you're a photographer extraordinaire, so talk about that if you don't mind.
So I started photography when I was a kid, actually. I remember my grandmother bought me a camera when I was about 10 years old. And I just kind of always walked around with it. For me, I was a shy kid. So having a camera was a way for me to tell stories without talking.
Okay.
Then I remember going through the phase, back then it was film, everything was film. So I remember I'm originally from Emerson Village.
Okay.
So I remember running to Rite Aid, taking my camera there so they can develop the film. I'm running back, is it ready yet? Is it ready yet? And then getting the photos and be like, wow. And then to be able to show people, and it's like, wow, who took these? I'm like, actually, I did. And then in 2010, I had a back injury. And the first thing I did was pick up a camera again because I had a lot of downtime because I had like 6 months of recovery from my back surgery. And I picked up the camera again, and I never put it down ever since.
I love it, man. So the first thing I'm gonna say is Emerson Village, right? From Baltimore?
From Baltimore, born and raised in Emerson Village.
Got you. And I've never met a person who the first thing they picked up from Baltimore was a camera. So this is new to me. So at that time, were you like the only person doing that? Like what inspired you to be yourself and not really kind of follow what you saw, in the streets and kind of do your thing? Talk about that.
So I think being raised by mostly my grandmother, there's a sense of wisdom beyond your years because I found myself being very observant. And I think that's one of the great things about being a good photographer is you can capture a moment without people knowing that you're actually doing it.
Wow.
And I think, I just started wanting to hang around older people. And I was sitting around because I was listening and I would learn from them. I learned how to cook. I learned because I would watch, I would listen, watch, listen, watch, listen. And then when I started doing things, like, how do you know how to do that? How do you know this? So it's because I was, I always paid attention. I didn't let I grew up in Emerson Village when it was different. Mm-hmm. There was mostly homeowners. I knew everybody lived on my block. I knew almost everybody lived in the neighborhood. Like this is when the 70s, 80s, when it was community. It was hope. It was peace. It was that sense of like, yeah, I'm proud to say I'm from Emerson Village. And I still, to this day, say regardless of how the climate is totally different now, I want people, because for me, I need to let people know that, where you grew up at, where the environment you're in does not totally dictate your future. What dictates your future is your mindset.
Absolutely.
Because you can go anywhere in your mind and anywhere in the world you want to. Is this, I see all these different things, but I also see, I read magazines, I read books. these people that accomplish these things didn't accomplish these things by necessarily staying in an environment they grew up in.
Wow.
They ventured out and they started exploring. And the good thing is my grandmother was an avid traveler. I remember every year we traveled. So travel is not a new thing to me. It's something that was installed in me since I was a kid. And I remember when I was about 18 years old, I went and got a haircut. And it was an older gentleman who cut my hair. And he asked me, when was the last time you've been to Washington, D.C.? I said, man, probably since I was a kid. He said, here, take this $20. I want you to get a MARC train ticket, round trip. Back then, it may have been $10 round trip. And go explore D.C.
Wow.
And I did that. And I was like, man, you know, going to D.C. was like going to another world, especially when I was a teenager, because that's when the crack epidemic started happening. So you were saying all kind of crazy stuff. But to go to D.C., you see the Capitol, you see the White House, you see people that look like me with these federal government jobs. It's like, man, this world is so much bigger. So I was started going back and forth to DC. Next, I said, you know what? I'm gonna go to the next level. I went to Philly.
I gotta ask you real quick before you went to Philly, is that where you found the New Balance trend in DC? Because
So
you gotta
now-
talk about it on a joking level.
No, so crazy. I used to wear New Balance back in high school,
Okay.
but I've been a sneakerhead since 8th grade. So I was either Air Max, Jordan 1, Jordan 3, Jordan 4, pretty much all my life. Air Max 94, 95. That was what I've been knowing. A couple New Balance when I got to my 20s, but it was just the gray and the 990s. That was it.
Yeah.
But you know, when you get older, it's like, okay, do I want to put these Jordans on that I know I'm gonna be standing 8 hours? They ain't gonna be comfortable.
Right.
So I purchased a pair of New Balance last year, and I put them on. It was the 9060s. I said, good God Almighty, these things are comfortable and they stylish.
Right.
I think I can pull these off. Next thing you know, I done bought 4 more pair.
I saw you, man, and I said, man, you fresh. You definitely had the DC swag. Foolie and I were talking before the show, and he was like, you got to ask him, where does he think New Balance started? Was it DC or Baltimore? It's always a fun conversation.
I think actually DC.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's more of a DC. Like when I think of New Balance, I think more DC than I think Baltimore.
Okay. Shout out to New Balance and tell us in the comments where you think New Balance came from. But just a little funny side story. So 10 years old, I'm inspired already. You come up in Edmondson Village, right? And everybody that I've had an opportunity to talk to from Edmondson Village tells us the same thing. Shout out to P. That gets me these conversations with these phenomenal people like yourself. And there's always like something common when I talk to you guys, because it's like everybody kind of took care of each other. You know, people knew each other and wanted to see people grow and succeed. So you get that camera at 10. What's the first thing you do? Like who tells you where to go, what to shoot? Tell me how you got started with that.
So for me, it was just like walking around. Like back then we didn't have cell phones.
Okay.
There was no cell phone. So it was like, okay, for me, let's say I take a picture right now on my cell phone at 12:01, right? And I go back at 12:02, take another picture. What's the difference between the picture I took in 12:01 versus 12:02? Even if I take the exact same picture.
The time.
That's right. You can't go back in time.
Right.
So every photo is history. It's a piece of history. Whether you're taking it on a cell phone, whether you're taking anything, you're documenting history, whether you realize that or not. When every time I say that analogy, people say, I never looked at it.
I
like
just
that.
stopped just now, and the conversation was like, wow.
Yeah. So for me,
Right.
the camera was a way to document history, because even a minute from now, I can't go back and take, even if I take that same photo, it's not going to be exactly the same because the time is different. And every time you take a photo, it's time stamped. So even when anybody pull any data, they can say, oh, this picture was taken this time, this day, blah, blah, blah. So it's history. So it was a way for me to not only tell my stories, but to tell the stories of other people and not necessarily have to have a voice. It was just like when people see it, it's like, oh my God, I wonder what, every time I take a photo, I think in my mind from the person looking at it, what do I want them to take away from it? And it is, I wonder what this person was thinking. I wonder what was happening at this particular moment. Again, that's where the storytelling component come into that.
Right.
So it's just not taking a photo and it makes no sense. It's taking a photo and again, people can look back and say, man, I wonder what happened this particular time at that. So that's kind of where it is.
And I can see exactly just from you telling me how photography works in your mind, how you've gotten to where you are now. We're going to talk about all the things that you're doing. I'm excited, man. It's phenomenal stuff. So I kind of derailed you. You said you went to Philly, but before you went to Philly, do you remember your first portrait that you took that kind of just sticks in your mind? Or any time around the times you went to DC, Philly in the early years?
Yeah, I think really for me, I was always a street photographer.
Okay.
So it's again, in my mind is giving the voiceless a voice. So it's like a person that's just sitting on a corner, sitting on the ground, that's holding a sign that say, "We'll work for food" or something like that. I document those photos, and then I'll show them those photos. Like, wow, like nobody never took the time they take my photos all the time, but nobody never took the time to show me the photo and then have a conversation. Mm-hmm. Because again, you can completely change somebody's outlook by just having a conversation.
Wow. And like you said, like not understanding what you're bringing out, like a person can have a picture taken of them and then they see it. And like you said, probably be surprised and be like, wow, like I didn't even know like the essence of myself could be captured in that way. Like it's pretty deep. So, all right, you go to Philly, talk about that.
Yeah, so I was in downtown Philly and just kind of exploring the city. And one of the things I really love about Philly is the old architecture.
Right.
It's like one of the top cities for like documenting that type of architecture, the stone buildings and, the leading lines. Like you stand on Broad Street, you can look down and you just see the lines are just perfectly straight. So it's just like the rule of thirds, all of the components of great photography. You can document a city really easy. Plus Philly is a huge art city. So there's so much, there's all these type of events and culture. So it's like all of those, you get the Puerto Rican, you get the Haitian, you get the African, you get African Americans, you get Caucasian, you get a bit of everything. So it's like, I don't focus on telling stories only in African American community, but it's to broaden the horizon of all ethnicities so you can tell your story.
Absolutely. So that's kind of where I came up with the Climb Back series, right? Because we're all entrepreneurs. We all want to, take our passion and turn it into, life. That's what we're here for. So you had a very interesting quote. You like to give the voiceless a voice. And I like to give people who are watching inspiration, because there's a kid probably in any inner city that picked up that camera today, might just have his phone. Nowadays, the cameras are really good on phones that just might start taking pictures. And I want them to watch you, Jermaine, and like see you, get that inspiration, and like understand that they can make this a lifestyle. So let's talk about your next big move. So you went from being that kid traveling from city to city. What was your first big break?
Oh, I remember my first big break was I got invited to LA to the BET Awards to shoot that. And I was like,
the BET Awards in LA?
Yeah. And I was like,
that's pretty huge.
And I was like, first time in LA, and to be able to be here documenting and rubbing elbows with all these celebrities that I watch on TV, it was just like, wow, this is unreal. But
so do they just see your work in your portfolio? And
so this is crazy because this is really a person who stepped out and this offered me opportunity, because at that time, to be honest with you, I wasn't an amazing photographer. I was, just learning the basics and knew the bare minimum, to be honest. I'm being very transparent. I wasn't the best photographer, but photography is like art. Mm. Like there's no such right and wrong way to do, because again, it's the way that you document it, and to be able to pull emotion from when the person is looking and say, wow, like to catch somebody in the crowd just doing like this, they announce that they're getting an award and you see a little bit of tears and capture that in a way that people say, wow. Again, the person seeing it be like, it's, for me, it's always, wow, I want that.
Absolutely.
I want to hear that. Wow, that means job well done for me.
And even like with the essence of photography, you can probably have the same topic, the same subject, and you can take the picture and I can take the picture and it'd be two different pictures. That's the beauty of the art, right? Because like you said, it's kind of what you see that you're also capturing in that process. So I think it's phenomenal. And we're going to also get into a lot of the things that you have right now, which I'm inspired on. But you made a comment to me when we first got started. And I was like, how can I see your photos? And we were talking about the upcoming events that you got coming on. And you said, look, and I don't think you were flexing, but I said, that's the biggest flex I heard. My guy Jermaine said, if you want to see my photos, you got to go to the Smithsonian. So talk about that, what you have coming up, and how you got into getting your photos in that big stage.
So I remember when I really started taking photography very serious. For me, as creatives, we're also visionary, so we tend to want to write everything down. And that's a thing that I do heavily, is write down the vision, because you have to write the vision to make it plain, because if you don't never write it down, it's no way it can come to fruition. It can live in your head all it want, but when it's on paper, it's just something about being able to look at it and say, okay. And because a lot of times I'll go back and look and say, this from 2 years ago. Wow, man, I accomplished all these things. But if I had not wrote it down and kind of was always looking at it, it's always not just on paper, in my mind, in my heart, it's that fire to, what do I do to achieve these things?
Man, you gotta like, share, and subscribe to Climbback Series. Stop right now, hit the subscribe button.
So that's kind of what I did. One of the things I wrote down was, one day I prayed that my work will be featured in the Smithsonian.
You wrote that down?
I wrote it down.
Wow.
Wrote it down.
How long ago did you say you wrote that down?
Ooh, that probably had to be in 2013 I wrote that down.
See, I get told this all the time, and I've talked to a lot of people that are successful, and again, you hear the similar characteristics, and you wrote that down, you made your vision plain, and you drove to it. So how did that feel to actually get that accomplishment?
So the way it happened was just like unbelievable. Like when I share my story of, because people say, how did you get in the Smithsonian?
Absolutely.
And I said, well, you want the real story. So it all started from the Baltimore Uprising.
Okay.
I heard that something was going on in Mondawmin, and as a photographer, photojournalist, a visual storyteller, never in my imagination did I think that I would be able to experience riots, uprising, not in my city.
Right.
Like you see it on TV, you see it in LA, you see all these different things happen all around places, but when it's like right in front of you, there's no way that I could miss the opportunity. So as soon as I got the call, I ran straight to Mondawmin and had my cameras out. A guy walked to me and said, excuse me, are you a real photographer, or you just somebody out here taking photos?
That's a hell of a question.
Yeah, and I said, no, I'm actually a real photographer. And I gave him my card, and I kept moving. He ain't say nothing. He ain't say who he was, nothing. Take the photos. I was out there for 12 days straight. Didn't make a penny. Wasn't trying to. For me, I wanted to have these photos.
Right.
I post a couple on social media, but they was with my cell phone. Something told me to sit on these photos and don't put them out there to the world, because I already knew. I started seeing photos and people was taking them and reposting them and resharing them and not giving the photographer credit. It's almost like I got a piece of art, you screenshot it, and then you put it all over the place, and people print it out and doing these things, and the artists never get any credit. So I was like, I don't want that.
Don't stumble on my
I worked too
work.
hard
Right.
for these 12 days, got to go through, it was a whole bunch of chaos and all that stuff out there. And I remember I got an email that said, hey, I ran into you at Mondawmin. I went through your website. I love the work, especially the images in church, because it's so compelling. I would love this, but I noticed I don't see any pictures from the riots. Is there a reason? I said, oh, they won't be on there. Now, as I scrolled down, I see his name, and then it say curator at the Smithsonian. I said, man, this is a prank. Somebody pranking me. I don't know how this guy even got my information. Then I responded back, and I said, well, if you wanted me to, I can come to DC and I can share the photos.
Absolutely.
He responded back, no, let me and the chief curator come to you.
Wow.
I said, what? At the time I was living in Owens Mills. So I put together this 3-minute slideshow. They actually showed up at my house. I put it on, and in the first 30 seconds, they said, stop. How can we get these photos? And I said, well, if you got an external hard drive, you can take them right now. He whipped out an external hard drive. I gave him all 1,500 photos.
Wow.
So again, you never know who people are, because he didn't say who he was or anything. Now, this particular time, the Smithsonian wasn't even open. They was the curators building up the archives for the Smithsonian. So after that, I met with him 4 or 5 times, and we going through all these images, and he was telling me the process, because again, I don't know how any of this stuff worked. and they do a lot of due diligence, and but luckily he was based in Baltimore, even though he worked there. And then I remember he said, okay, we narrowed it down to 19 photos.
Wow.
I was like, wow. And then I remember getting an invitation to the grand opening of the National Museum of African American History and Culture in DC. And I went there, and it was just unbelievable to walk in and see my work hanging in the Smithsonian, and then see the tag beside it, Jermaine Gibbs. It was just mind blowing. At that particular time, me and my girlfriend, which is now my wife, she went with me. So just to have her with me to experience that, I mean, it was life changing.
Was that your moment of vindication?
Say it again.
Was that your moment of vindication, like when you wrote down your photos are going to be in the Smithsonian?
Yeah.
You're with your future wife and you see it up there, like that has to be a moment that you never forget.
That's a moment that I'll never forget. And I remember during the ceremony part, they was like, oh, we want to bring up the photographers who have worked in this new Smithsonian that are still alive and well, and they brought me up, and I was just like, and then you look out in the crowd and you see all these people just shot. It was like it was a humbling moment, but just a moment of gratitude, a moment of being grateful and just glad that I wrote that down, because I actually probably spoke that thing into existence.
Absolutely.
And then from there, the exhibition was actually a temporary exhibition, which was called More Than a Photo.
Okay.
But the key component of this exhibit was in a place that Oprah Winfrey had sponsored.
Okay.
Oprah Winfrey is one of the biggest sponsors for the National Museum of African American History and Culture.
Shout out to Oprah.
Right. So after that, I asked him, like, okay, where these photos gonna go? I would love to actually have the photo and the tag that was in, but they keep everything as archives.
Okay.
But he said, you know what? So he said, in the building, is six levels, 3 above ground, 3 underground, and the Smithsonian. That's how they designed it. But on the top floor, the executive level is where all the key people, and that's where Oprah Winfrey's office is, and the executive director of the Smithsonian office is. They said the executive director of the Smithsonian requested that your photos come upstairs and go on a wall. That way, when every party come in here, Oprah, whoever the top people to come in, they walk down and they constantly see these photos. And from there, about 5 years ago, they reached back out to me again. We decided to use one of your photos for a mural. And I said, really? He said, yes. And I said, okay, cool. And he tried to send me a picture of it, but he said, you can't get any just. You got to actually come and see it.
Absolutely.
So after my wedding, we got married in 2021. Part of our honeymoon was like to stop in DC to go see it in person.
That's off the hook right there.
And we got off that elevator and we walked in. Again, the picture does no justice. This thing is probably 50 feet tall and probably 30 feet wide.
What was the original scale when you did it?
Oh, it was a regular digital file.
Got you.
That they blew it up, and it's this huge mural. And then on the mural, there are multiple other photos by other photographers.
Wow.
And I walked in there and I said, oh my God. It's called, the exhibition is called The Reckoning. It's actually still up today. And what I did was I stood around purposely and I just wanted to hear people talk about the photo and just stand back and look at it.
Like that visual when you're in the art gallery and you see that big painting up, that was how your portrait was up, and
Exactly.
you could just kind of ear hustle on. Wow.
So I remember one person was in there and I said, what do you think of this photo? He said, this is a very powerful photo. I wonder what the photographer was thinking. And I said, wow. I said, what if I can introduce you to the photographer? They said, how are you gonna do that? I said, how you doing? My name is Jermaine Gibbs. And then I pointed, see the tag right there? That's me.
I get you chills, man.
And they like, oh my God. And it was 2 older women. It was actually a mother and a daughter. The mother was like 80 something and the daughter was in her 60s. And they was like, oh my God, can we take a picture with you? Can you sign something for us? And I'm like, of course, absolutely. So again, it's just like, wow. And then last year they reached out We're releasing a book, 50 Years of Music,
Okay.
globally, 10,000 copies, mostly focusing in Europe.
This
in
is from the
UK.
Smithsonian as
So the
well.
Smithsonian, and they collaborated with a guy who was going to be designing the book, and they asked for permission for another photo. I said, my only request is, please, I need copies of it. That's easy. They did it. I approved it. Sent me copies again. I was like, man, God, just keep, like, how does this keep happening to me? Like, but again, you know, they put those photos on that top level. So it's people constantly walking down that hall, the people that make the decisions, seeing it, that's, oh, we love that. And I said, this, you know, so it's just, and from there, I did interviews with CNN, New York Times, just NPR, and it just literally completely changed the trajectory of my business and me as a photographer, because opportunities just started coming from everywhere.
I want to ask you this. I mean, did you ever have any formal training after you got your first camera, or did you just learn and research on your own?
All self-taught.
Okay.
No training.
So are you the type of person that when you take your portraits, are you a harsh critic on yourself, or do you find appreciation of every portrait you take? Like, how do you feel about your work?
So I think back then I found appreciation in all of my work.
Okay.
Now I can go back and be a critic from 4 or 5 years ago and say, wow, I could have did that different. But it depends on also the type of photography that I'm doing. So if I'm doing portrait, studio stuff, I can be a critic for that. For the storytelling part of it, no. I keep it as plain, because again, at that particular time, the way I shot that was the story that I was trying to tell. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't go back and change it. Like all the photos I took from the Uprising, I wouldn't go back and change any of them. And I shot almost 90% of them in black and white because I wanted people to be able to look at those photos. And even right now in 2015, you go back and, you know, in 2015 versus now, you know, they done switched out designs for police cars 5 different times. So you look at these old photos and, man, they using old Caprices back then. So it's like, you know, and black, and there's something about black and white that just give you this timeless effect. Mm-hmm. And I shot them but somebody asked me the other day, did you shoot them in black and white, or you shot them and you went back and edited? I said, no. I said, to be honest, I've never edited not one photo from the Uprising. I wanted to be as truly authentic as possible. Even when I travel, I don't edit those photos because, again, I want those pictures to be raw and people to see it just like I seen it.
You took it, like, the way that I hear this story told, you took this opportunity as like more of like a passion and not like a business opportunity.
Yes.
If that makes sense. Like, you didn't really expose the photos that you took. You kept them close to heart. You went out there like having to be a part of what was going on. So we're coming up on a 10-year anniversary, something that's very important. We talked about Freddie Gray, and there's some other things that you have coming up. So let's talk about that. I think, would it be 10 years tomorrow?
So the incident actually happened on April the 10th. Mm-hmm. On April the 18th is when the Uprising started happening. And then on April the 19th is when he passed away. Okay. April 27th was the actual funeral. So I did a lot of research and made sure that I have all the dates, that it always stay fresh in my mind. Mm-hmm. And the crazy part is I had not touched these photos prior to 3 months ago since, I want to say, probably 2018. So it's literally been in the archive. It's been on an external hard drive, and I haven't even pulled that hard drive out until recently when I wanted to. I was like, it's coming up on 10 years. I gotta do something this year. I can't, you know, and I was telling somebody like this like, for me, it's like my baby. So It's like me letting the world see my child.
Absolutely.
So it's like, you know, and I put the Evite up. First I texted to a whole bunch of friends.
Climbback series exclusive, y'all. It's coming out.
And before I could actually post it on social media, tickets were gone. I was like, first in my mind, you know, sometimes what happened was I went to a panel discussion about 3 days prior to me knowing that I was going to do this thing. And I was like, wow, nobody really showed up. It's like 15 people in the room. So I literally almost lost hope. I was like, I ain't going to do it. because I don't want to put something together, go through all this hard work, and then people don't show up. And then I did an interview with Channel 2. They didn't put it out yet. Then I did an interview with Channel 11. And some of the questions that she asked me started hitting why I was out there, why I was doing this. I said, I got to put this thing out there. I got to go through. I don't care if 10 people show up. I got to do it. And I put it out there. And in a matter of 8 hours, 110 tickets gone.
Wow.
And there's another 100 plus people on a waiting list. I said, okay, so I'm getting excited now because now I finally get to share, and so in the Smithsonian, that mural, 3 of those people that's in that photo are going to be on the panel.
Wow.
And then I tracked down one of the police officers. They contacted me yesterday. I'm coming back into Baltimore because they no longer in Baltimore. I'm going to be a part of your panel.
Wow.
City council people started reaching out. And I was like, oh, okay. I'm getting my hope back. I'm getting back what I thought nobody was going to support or be a part of. Like, no, people want to see this.
Absolutely.
So I'm super excited about this.
Jermaine, you got to get me on the list, Jermaine. You got to get us in there. The Combat Series has to be there.
Oh, that's nothing. I'll just give me the names. I'm gonna put it on the list, and y'all gonna be in the VIP. So.
Yeah, I want that effect to be able to see these pictures that you took, and I'm thankful to have the luxury of asking you, what you were thinking at the time. So you got an exclusive space. We're obviously at the Jermaine Gibbs studio right now down here in Baltimore by the harbor. Beautiful location.
Thank you.
Talk about the space that people don't know about where you're having the event. Let's drop the exclusive.
Yeah, so about 3 months ago, I started peeping around and looking at other spaces because I had another vision in my mind. And 2 weeks ago, I signed a lease for a new space. And the vision was I wanted a community space.
Okay.
Because I know as creative, sometimes it's like, you're so limited on things or the prices are just not affordable for as a creative to be able to have my own space, work in my own space. And I know as a creative, you need to have quiet space that you can edit, that you can just, get your thoughts together, write up an idea of what you want to do next. So I created a Art Bulk Co., which is art is art. Bulk, BAL, is short for Baltimore. Mm-hmm. Co. is 2 things, collaboration, community.
I like that.
Which is it will be a co-working space, a community space. If you're somebody that's in the training field, say, you know what, I want to offer training to people, financial literacy, or I want to do cooking classes. I want to teach people how to be, there's so many different ideas for business people. People want, I want to learn how to be a balloon designer. Can I come down here and do my class? So all of those opportunities. I do yoga. I want to do stretches. I want to get into having retreats for brothers. I want to be able to have a quiet space for sisters to come together. Mm-hmm. This is what Art Bulk is all about.
Art Bulk, it's phenomenal. I mean, this is the time. Everybody has the idea. I can't say everybody has a passion, but we hope you have a passion. And you're allowing people to be able to express themselves, come down in a safe space, immerse in that creativity. So I thank you just for having that. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully, we might be able to link up again and do some future business there. One thing also that I wanted to talk about was your connection to Ghana and Hope Mission. Hopefully, I'm not going too fast, but I was really inspired by that. You also have the Through the Lens project as well. So let's talk about some of that you have going on. And how'd you start that? And how can somebody be so lucky to join that program?
So let's start with Hope, because that's the thing that I'm most passionate about. In 2016, I was invited by a church to come to Ghana.
Okay.
As a photographer.
To Ghana?
To go to Ghana. And I spent my first time going to Ghana, or to the continent itself, period, was going to Ghana. And my first trip there was 28 days.
Wow.
So you're talking about eye-opening, culture shock, everything you can think of.
So you moved there for a month?
Pretty much.
All right.
But the first week, it was huge culture shock because, I'm telling people I'm going in, oh my God, you're going to get ate by a lion, you're going to be da-da-da. In my mind, I'm like, okay, it's going to be this, it's going to be this. It's like, you get there, it's like, this ain't, all this stuff they've been saying, that's not really what it is. And again, I was there for 28 days in the bush, in the small villages, just experiencing all of the culture. And I was like, man, this is life changing. I think the biggest lesson it taught me is, because I went there with all these suitcases, about 10 pair of tennis shoes, all this stuff. And by the end of the trip, I realized I don't really need none of this stuff.
Wow.
These kids are happy. Giving them a soccer ball is equivalent to giving them a Nintendo Switch or a PlayStation 5.
It just gave you a different perspective, right?
Gave me a
From just
different
looking at everything
perspective.
that you thought you needed versus how they got happiness in life with simpler things.
Yeah, like these kids out there playing in a big old grass field with no shoes on.
Right.
It's like, man, I got all this stuff that I think I need.
That's deep, man.
And it's just to see, like, I really don't need any of this stuff. Like, I go in the shower and turn water on, let it run for 10 minutes. These people walking 5 miles to get dirty water. So it taught me the lesson one. The biggest lesson it taught me is humbleness. Humble. Like this, it humbled me in a way that I don't think anything else in my life has humbled me. Two, the greatest thing it taught me is to never complain.
Right.
Because even in my worst days, even the worst project in Baltimore City would not compare to what some people are living in, and I'm talking about with a family. Imagine having a husband, wife, 3 kids. One is an infant, and you go into a dirt house, and the ground is dirt, and it's just tree branches holding it in. Now they get these heavy storms. What do you think they do?
I can only imagine.
And I remember going into this one village. The house was made of dirt, and on the door they had a kind of door they made out of wood, and on the door, I'll never forget this. It wrote, "Trust God." I said, wow. Back in the States, you got everything. You got access to these things. And these people have nothing. And the level of faith that they have, I can't even put it into words. How can these? So I came back and I said, I want to go back next year. And I went back by myself. I did some fundraising on social media. Again, I never done any of this stuff. This all new to me. And I met somebody in Australia 2 years prior. And I put a post. I remember filming a video, putting a post up. I need to raise $2,000 so I can go. People gave me the donations, like the clothes to give away and all that. But the monitor is like, we seen you go one time. And I was like, man, I filmed that video, posted it at 8 o'clock. At 8:59, I got an email. One person paid the whole balance, the 19 something that was left. I was like, who did this? They didn't put a name or nothing. I had to look at the email address. I said, I know this name. I reached out to the person and I said, you sent me? And they said, yeah. They said, I've been watching you on social media. I met, again, we was on a trip in Australia 2 years prior, and I met them, but there was no acquaintance or nothing other than they was following me on social media. He said, I've been seeing the work that you've been doing. I see what you're trying to do, and I want to support it.
They bought into your vision.
They bought into the vision.
Yeah.
I was like, this is unbelievable. What do I need to, do I need to repay you? Nothing. No, continue doing the work. This is a small token to let you know that what you're doing is not going in vain. And I went there and took all the donations, went to 5 or 6 different villages. And we went to one village and I was like, where is the water? And it was like, right there. I said, what?
The actual supply, their source of water.
And it was a man-made lake that they depend on rainwater to be their water. I said, man, this can't be happening. And this is 2017. I said, this can't be happening.
Wow.
No way possible. And I said, okay, I'm gonna see what I can do to fix this. Again, I'm speaking these things. I went to a school and I gave them like $300. It was like I gave them $1 million. And I said, I pray one day I'm gonna be able to come back here and give you so much school supplies, it's gonna be unreal, that I can really help this school to get to the next level. And I left it as that. Came back home, met with some friends. I said, man, I think I want to start a nonprofit. Again, I don't know nothing about a nonprofit, how to set it up. I don't know how to operate. I don't know anything.
Your experiences just fueled that passion.
It just
even
fueled
more.
it. And I had two friends and they was like, I'm 100% behind you. And we started the process. Somebody came on board and said, I want to help you start it. And they did all the paperwork. We got approved. The following year we went back, what was 8 of us. And we took donations and all this stuff. And then the following year, we had collected so much donations, my whole basement was full. And we went back and we went to that school.
Just like 2020.
2020,
Okay.
2019 actually.
Okay.
And it didn't dawn on me till I had some quiet time while I was there, because it was so many things just moving between family, just got engaged, so it was a lot of moving parts.
Right.
So sometimes you don't take time to reflect. And as I'm there, one night I'm sitting in my room, and I said, man, that thing that I spoke, that I was gonna be able to come back to this school and really help this school and do these things, is now coming to fruition. So we wound up adopting that school. We stayed there for 3 years. Within that 3 years, we gave them so many school supplies. We built them a brand new kitchen at their school. They didn't have any bathrooms at their school. We built them 6 restrooms. And out of our own pocket for 2 years, me and my team paid all the teachers' salary for 2 years straight.
Wow.
And then it was like, okay, we got to the point where it was like, okay, what else we can do without overstepping our boundaries? And I said, man, I want to start my own school. Somebody gave me land. They said, you have done great things. This is a small token of appreciation. And I was going to build a school there, but it didn't happen.
So somebody actually gave you the land in Ghana?
Following year, COVID happened.
Okay.
I was supposed to go to Ghana. I'm all packed up, ready to go. The week before they announced COVID shut down travel, couldn't go. One of my neighbors I talked to prior to me was about to go, again, every time I cross paths with somebody, I'm telling them about Ghana. And they was like, oh, me and my daughter want to sponsor a well. I said, really? So the way it worked for a well is you can't physically open a well until you commission it. Commission it means you have to drink the water before you give it to the community.
Got you.
I wasn't there because it's COVID, so we had to do it virtual. So we did it virtually. They commissioned a well. Everything was good. But I noticed in the background, I said, wait a minute. You said this was at a school, right? I said, oh, give me a tour of the school. And it was literally just wood surrounded by trees and dirt. I said, this the school? I said, yeah.
No way these conditions going
No
to
way.
learn.
How these kids learning?
Right.
You got 100 kids in this condition. Ain't nobody learning nothing. It's so bad that they bringing their own chair to school.
Wow.
If they don't, they got to sit on the floor.
You know, it makes you think about America and the sense of entitlement a lot of us have, man, you know? And I haven't had a chance to experience one of those missions that you went on, so this is profound.
So I said, give me a tour of the school, and then they gave me the tour. And I said, I want you to talk to the person who's in charge of this and see how can I get this land and build a brand new school. And they looked at me like, you know what that costs? How that's gonna happen? I said, by faith, it's gonna happen. And I started putting together all these campaigns, and we wound up raising the money and built the school, brand new 6 classrooms, state-of-the-art school like in the States. 6 classrooms, bathrooms, kitchen, library, computer lab / science center.
It's incredible.
And it's 95% complete. We only got like another 10,000 to get into it, and it'd be 100% complete. And we did it in 18 months. I went there in 2023, cut the ribbon. It was the first time my wife and daughter ever been to Ghana, was there to experience. I wanted them, because again, it's one thing that you constantly leaving home and, oh my God, you keep going, you putting all these hours and blood, sweat, and tears. They need to see what I'm actually doing.
Absolutely.
And I brought them. And it was eye-opening for my wife as well as my daughter, who was 3 years old at the time.
So your wife got to experience the unveiling of your mural. She got to experience the Ghana school opening, your 3-year-old as well. That's just some great stories, man. I appreciate you sharing. So I wanted to also ask you, also talk about the acronym so people can find you. So you said it's Hope Mission. What does Hope stand for?
So Hope is help open people's eyes.
I like that a lot.
My whole thing was that, a lot of people hear things about Africa, Ghana, and all these places. But
It's like a stigma, like,
it's
right?
a stigma, right? So my thought was, you know what? What I started doing every year was started inviting people to come to do missions. And what am I doing by inviting people there? I'm giving them firsthand experience to not just hear, but to see it yourself. So that's why it's helped open people's eyes, because that's all I'm doing is taking you there. And just like everybody who has been, it's like, oh my God, I see everything in a different light now. This trip really opened my eyes. And we always do like a sit down powwow. And I just want to say, what are your takeaways? And it's always, this has given me hope. This has taught me to not complain. This has made me grateful. All of the things. I said, this is what this whole thing is about. If I can leave before I leave this earth, if I can impact one life, change one life, open somebody else's eyes to be more impactful, to be more passionate, to be more want to give back, then I didn't live my life in vain. And that's what life for me is.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what climbing back is too, because we all start somewhere and you could have easily just been satisfied. You know what I'm saying? But you constantly keep putting your hands in, just helping and elevating the world. So I thank you for that. Talk about Through the Lens, if you don't mind me switching gears, because as we did a tour through your studio, you talked about people actually learning photography with you in the bush over in Africa. Please tell us about that.
So Through the Lens came from, again, going to Africa so many times, and people was always sending me DMs, inbox, texting me, oh my God, I'm living vicariously through you.
You called it bluff.
And they was like, I know I'll never get that opportunity, or I wish I could experience the things that you're doing. I said, really? I said, okay, I'm gonna step out on faith. And in 2019, again, I really stepped out on faith because I partnered with two brothers from Tanzania. I only knew them through Instagram. I'm going in a country that's a 20-hour flight with two people I don't know. Got there, I met them, amazing hospitality. We went through Tanzania, stayed there 17 days.
If you want to see more content like this, stop what you're doing right now and subscribe and hit that bell for notifications and subscribe to the Climb Back series. So again, Through the Lens, these people hit you on DMs like, I want to live vicariously through you. I'd have been like, yeah, I want to live. And then as soon as you said, let's go, I'd have been like, So
Right.
what was your experience like? Did everything go well? Did you have any, because it seems like you just hit on all cylinders with everything you do, Jermaine.
So I do a lot of research.
Okay.
I do a lot of planning. I have OCD when it comes to planning and execution. Like it's a gift. Like to be able to plan and to move through a different country is a whole different level of planning. But one thing that I heavily promoted was I want you to not set any expectations. I want you to realize that we're going through to a third world country. So I didn't promote it as this is a vacation, you're going to do this. No. So I knew I set it up. So it could be like the first day we get there, we had two Airbnbs, one for ladies, one for the guys. And we get there and the ones that the women have, no hot water.
There you go.
You had a 20 something hour flight, including the layover. Of course, first thing you want to do, check in, kick your shoes off, take a shower, relax for a little bit. No hot water. Guess what? Nobody complained because why? I already set them up.
You set that expectation, right?
They came down, hey, we're going to leave out. Ladies, y'all can go in and shower and then we'll shower. Called the person, hey, yeah, blah, blah, blah. They got on top of it immediately and within an hour it was fixed.
They came with their cameras and equipment. Did you provide that stuff?
No, so everybody came with their cameras, they came with equipment. Most people were photographers. We did have a couple people that was doing video, but most of the people were photographers. So yeah, they bring their own equipment. Most of them are, you have some people that's entry level, but most of them are mid to seasoned.
Okay.
So, I mean, again, amazing experience. But again, that wasn't the only hiccup, but it set the tone for the rest of the trip. So, okay, yeah, he did say we're going to a third world country. So it was like God had connected the right people. Because it could have been people like, I paid all this money to come here. Like, no, I said, not only that, I created a WhatsApp, and we literally every week we talking.
Yeah.
We doing Zoom. I'm telling you what to pack, what not to pack, because I'd done all the due diligence. So I was like, man, you and they were just like, by the middle, like, you planned this to a T. And then, we had a couple hiccup transportation, the air conditioner not working on the bus one day. But, I think people was, you so immersed in a culture and this experience that stuff is irrelevant.
Right. We here now.
Yeah. We gonna soak all this in. We ain't gonna complain. We gonna. So again, it was an amazing trip. And then from there, we just kept building and building and building and building. And we missed 1 year because COVID happened. We did 2019 Tanzania, 2020 was supposed to be Ethiopia.
Okay.
We didn't go because everything was shut down. 2021, we wound up doing Ethiopia. 22, we did Ghana. 23, we did India.
Okay.
24, it was a 5-year anniversary. No, yeah, 24, that's 25. Yeah, last year was our 5-year anniversary. So I said, we got to go back to where it all started. But I added all different things, and we went to Kenya. So we did 3 countries in one trip.
Wow. Not to hurt anybody's feelings, but did you have a favorite year?
Ooh, I'm going to say yes, I did. Ethiopia, because I'm heavy into tribes and culture.
Okay.
And can you imagine riding through the mountains and 3 Land Rovers following each other, and we got the drone up? Can you imagine that? And just soaking in the experience, you see the warriors walking on the side of the road with their guns. The machine, because again, so you're in the middle of nowhere, no cell phone service, no nothing. And we literally, every couple of days, we popping up in a different village. Or, all right, we jumping up this morning, we got to go to the small airport. We jumping on a plane, it's letting us out in the middle of nowhere. It's almost like being a Navy SEAL. So it was just like, I think that for me was like the best experience, sleeping in a tent. Yeah.
It's authentic, man. But like you said, you planned it out. It seems like you always had your vision and you just went for it, man. It takes a lot of courage, man. And that's what we try to tell everybody watching the Comeback series. Find that courage and get inspired. Taking another move into more ventures. You got this mobile portrait truck. Am I saying it correctly?
So it's called the Portrait Truck Studios.
Portrait Truck Studios. So
Portrait Studio Truck, I'm sorry.
Portrait Studio Truck, great idea, right? I started to look at it because when I talked to P about our conversation that we were going to set up, I started doing my research. And like I said, we do organic conversation with the Comeback series. But I saw all the things that you were doing. And I was like, foolie, look at all these like links and pages. And then I got to the portrait truck and I was like, it's phenomenal. So you post up in the community. Go ahead and talk about it.
So one of the ideas for the Portrait Truck Studio was 2 things. Innovation. I always tell people ask me, how can you describe yourself in a couple different scenarios? And I said, well, I consider myself like Apple and McDonald's. Apple being they're innovative. Mm-hmm. Every year they come out with a product and they add a little bit to it, enough that get people that you're on a waiting list to get that new iPhone every single year. I know because every year I get one. Mm-hmm. So they sell me something that makes me want to get it. McDonald's, they have a menu with their meals, but then they have the value meals, something that everybody can afford. So with the portrait truck, like we go to an event. Normally you can't book me less than $500 an hour, and that's on the low end. But the portrait truck is more about volume. Let's just say we go to the wine festival. There's thousands of people that come, right? I don't need to charge a ridiculous amount of money because they're not gonna pay it. Mm-hmm. I charge $30, right? But if I get 1,000 people to pay $30, I'm walking away with a good amount of money.
Very smart, savvy business move, and people appreciate that. Because they're paying $30 for quality too.
They're paying for quality. That's the thing. Like, when you see this trailer, you're going to be blown away because one, we roll out the red carpet everywhere we go. You come in, the air conditioning is on. So if you're at a wine festival, it's hot. Oh my God, it feels so good in here. We got water, we got a fridge, we got wine in there, depending on what type of event it is. We got the TV with the R&B classics or the old school hip hop. we got a full set.
Got the vibes
backdrop.
set.
It's the vibes. So it's like people come in there, they can't catch the concept until they see it. But when they walk in, they say, "Oh my God, this thing is amazing. Who came up with this idea?" I said, "I did." I said, "It was 4 years in the making. I just didn't jump out there. Did a ton of research, making sure that there was no competition. So in this area, you won't find this nowhere near here."
And you always have an event in Baltimore
Always
in
have an
the DMV
event.
area, so there's always people there that want to get a good picture, a good headshot. So that's brilliant, man.
And then I remember growing up, when you went to somebody's house, you walked in, you seen family photos. And I know a lot of time when people reach out to me, they ask me to come to them because they have that parent or grandparent who can't travel here. But what if I can now pull in front of your doorstep
Right.
and you come right out? Oh my God, you mean I could just come? Yes, that's what you can do. So that was another part of that vision, was to be able to do that. So it's like, for me, is, you know what? It'll be different. I'm actually going to these communities. I'm actually going to take the photos, and I'm actually going to interview the people. And you hear the raw interview. I don't cut, I don't edit, just like it is. So when people see that and I'm trying to fundraise, like, oh no, he really out there. He's really doing it. So for me to document the photos and all that stuff, again, for me, is giving the voiceless a voice. Because these people, the people come in, and I've asked them, like, some communities, they won't even let them in because they say they're exploiting us. They'll come in, get the information, put a spin on it, go take these photos, sell them and all this stuff, and they never do anything
Never
to
pull
give
back.
back.
Right.
One thing that we do on every single trip is a service day. I never go to any country without doing a service day. Whether it be we going to an orphanage, we going to serve, we going to do something,
Just to show them
or we
that you're
bringing
not-
something.
Yeah.
We pouring into everywhere we go.
That's what's up.
So it's like, okay, yeah, we can take pictures, we can do all this, but we also are pouring into these same communities that we took from, pretty much. That's how I feel like. It's like almost like in the culture in Africa, when you show up in a community, you bring something, because the community is going to take care of you and give you something. And it might not be, they're not giving you money or anything like that, but just to welcome you into the community. And they are the most hospitable people I've ever met in the world. Like, how do these people have nothing but they doing this? So again, that taking that photo and just sharing it with people. And again, like, people see the photo like, do you actually know this person? Can you connect me with this person? Or how can I help support this person? So again, if I didn't go there, take this photo, share this video, this person wouldn't have a voice.
Absolutely.
This person couldn't get the help they need. Because right now we have built a school. All during COVID, we provided meals, masks, water, everything in 3 different countries. Not just in Ghana, but we was doing work in India. We was doing work in Tanzania.
That's huge.
So it's like, we take the photos, but the goal is only to use it to show people. And we are taking a photo, the video, and then show it so people can see, okay, this is not just an organization that's, we don't know. We actually, and you can see us go and giving the stuff to
So
the
that's
people.
the thing, like, you can take a photo and essentially you're capturing that moment in time, like you said. You're taking from that moment. But instead of you just taking photos and taking those images and leaving, you're pulling back. And that's a beautiful thing. Now, to tie it back into the Climb Back series, and because you were just talking about a lot of phenomenal things from start to finish, did you have any times to where it was tough? Did you have a time that stands out to where you almost maybe wanted to give up yourself?
Oh,
Always ask
absolutely.
that question.
There's no business that I know can say they started and there was never a time when they wanted to throw the towel in. Because again, when you starting out any business, you know that you can't really come out and expect to see a lot of profit. There's a lot more losses because you got to invest, you got to market,
You gotta spend money to make money.
You got to spend money to make money. So yeah, I know that for me, there's like, even with I think one of the hardest businesses to push was the portrait truck, because it's a new concept. People don't know about it. And the only way that people can understand it is I have to show up. So what that requires me is to do a lot of free stuff. But the more people that see it, the more exposure it's getting. So I remember like, oh man, this starting to get draining. Like we keep coming out, we ain't making no money. But then it's like, but now it's like this year is totally different. It's like, oh, we got this event, we got this event, we got this event. So like, you know, it's the sacrifice. You know, a lot of people see where I am now, but people don't see that I've been doing this since 2010. In those first 3 or 4 years, it was just like, ooh, like I can't afford to buy the equipment. I can't afford to do this. I can't afford to do this. Or I got to pick and choose, or I got to rent something because I can't afford to have this equipment, but I need to have this for this assignment. But man, it's eating away all my profit. But in order to deliver the product I need to have, I got to have this equipment. So it's all of those things that you know, I always run across people who've been following me from the beginning, and they always tell me, it's so amazing to see, to watch your journey, to see how you developed. And one of the biggest things I love about it, you're still a regular people's person that people can reach out and touch. People can call you. People can send you a message. You actually respond. They don't have to go through 10 different channels to get a hold of you.
Right.
Said, no, at the end of the day, I always want to be Jermaine. And for people that know me more than 20 years, I'm always going to be Pi.
So before we let you go, Jermaine, where can we find you? Let us know what you got coming up. And where can we find your beautiful work?
Sure. So most of you can find JermaineGibbs.com. That'll take you right to my social media. But also, if you want to go straight to my Instagram and follow me, you can go to J_UNIQUE__. And if you hit the link in my bio, it will take you to all of my website and all of my pages, and it'll take you to my link tree with all the interviews and everything. So that's the easiest way to find me, is go on Instagram, hit my link tree, and it'll guide you to everything. Also, if people always ask, how can they support Hope Missions? You can go to hopemissionsghana.org, hit the donate button, and wow.
I think right there is where you got to end it, man. I really want to appreciate and say thank you, Jermaine.
Oh, no, I
for
appreciate
sharing
it.
everything, man. This is a phenomenal conversation. I hope somebody's watching this Comeback Series episode and just see that you can always chase your passion, whether you are the planner like Jermaine or whether you just go get it. Like, don't be afraid, chase your dreams. Just have streams. It's a Comeback Series. If you want to see more content like this, stop what you're doing right now and subscribe and hit that bell for notifications and subscribe to the Comeback Series.